Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. This is episode 3 of Campfire Talks with Florida Engineering, Lightning Engineering, and Gunderson Engineering. We haven't talked pools yet, so today I'm joined with Larry Lipke. Larry Lipke, he handles the commercial and residential pools division for our organization, our engineering firm. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys give us some time to recognize our pool division within the company, and super excited to share some insight.
Let's start from the beginning, right? There's a bunch of different types of pools out there. I've seen pools that look almost like an oasis, or just a natural look. But you know, as a homeowner, I'm kind of on the idea of like affordability. So I'm looking at like I think they're fiberglass pools and just set into the ground, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you're the expert. What type of pools exist in the industry?
So the most common pools that you're going to see are going to be your concrete pools that are gunite or shotcrete.
Okay.
Those are your most traditional style pools. A lot of pools you're starting to see are going to be your fiberglass pools, like you're saying, or a shell that just sits in the ground. Obviously, it's a quicker process, a little bit cheaper of a method, depending on the consumer and what they want to spend, right? And then there's some other elements that are coming into play, like the shipping containers. You're starting to see some builders that are wanting to, start using the shipping container methods. So it hasn't been as popular, but it's starting to become popular within the last few years. And then the biodesign pools, which a different method, a different process. It's pretty cool when you see it in person. It's not very popular, but it's definitely doable, and we can do engineering for all aspects of those type of pools.
Okay, and I've noticed, I mean, let's be honest, with interest rates kind of where they're at, a lot of homeowners are just stuck in their home. So they're looking at ways of making their home a little bit more home-like, right? So a lot of them are looking into pools. So we're getting a lot more owner builders coming through, I've noticed. But what would you say out of the quality or the type of work that we get? Is it more commercial, residential, contractor work, or is it owner builder?
So we're getting a large percentage of our contractor builds.
Okay.
I would say out of 100, we might get 10 of owner builders that come in. So it's not a huge number, and the reason behind it is the owners don't know enough about building pools.
Right.
I have homeowners that's built 3 houses but it's never built a pool.
Right.
And it's a different process. So the trust of having a contractor and having an engineer that's supplying them with plans, it's a lot more comfortable for them to go in that direction.
Okay.
But it's definitely not something that it's discouraged to do. Some homeowners want to take that on and do it themselves.
Excellent. That's good to know. Let's talk frequently asked questions. I know when I first started here, I saw Angle of Repose come through. We even have a really good article on our website about it now after I kind of learned about it a little bit. But I'd love to hear your explanation of Angle of Repose, and then if there are any other like frequently asked questions that are asked, let's go ahead and answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Angle of Repose, we call it AOR. It's the distance from the house to the pool.
Okay.
So we calculate the distance of the house based off of the depth of the pool. So if you're 5 foot from the house, you want to be at least 5 foot depth.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you're within that angle repose, then we're going to encourage to do an angle repose detail. So we're going to basically do extra engineering on that pool wall that's closest to the house. It gives it extra structural support. That way it doesn't create any cavity or cave-ins
It's a good thing.
underneath the house foundation.
So, for example, if a contractor's got a client who's a diver, right? And say they want a 12 or 15 foot swimming pool, that means that pool should be 12, 15 feet away from the house foundation, right?
Well, to have a 15-foot deep pool is going to be pretty tough to do. But the max you're going to see here in Florida is probably about 8 foot. The more northern states you can go, they have diving boards. You can probably get away with a 12 or 15 foot pool. But yeah, the rule of thumb is the max depth of the pool, the distance from the house, to be safe of your angle repose.
And the AOR is it's not stringent just to Florida. It's a basic common rule across
Correct.
the country.
Exactly.
That's really good to know. Okay, that's something I did not know.
Yes.
So, what are some other FAQs?
So there's some other things as far as like flood zone information that we really highly encourage our clients to utilize the FEMA flood maps. When they're selling a job, I always highly encourage to tell everybody always plug in the address. Check the flood, because that's the first thing that we do when we get an order come in is check the flood.
Is that normally on the FEMA's website? They can just go there, type in their address, and it'll give them.
It'll give them like a pinpoint location of the address that you're putting in with the coordinates and the flood zone that it's in.
Fantastic. I'll go ahead and, of course, the link will be provided in the caption below. Any other frequently asked questions?
Yeah, so I just want to dive in a little bit more into flood details. So, we just really encourage, because a lot of that flood information is dictated in how we do our design work.
Okay.
So you will fall into more site-specific related when you start getting into the coastal and the coastal VE zones. It's just a matter of your house elevation to where the flood's at. It all depends, and it dictates how deep that pool's going underground with all of your uplift pressures. I know I don't want to get into all the nuts and bolts with it, but it's just a very common practice for us. And we want to just educate our clients and owner builders, even our commercial clients, of those requirements, and just be, very keen on when they're selling their jobs. So that's one thing, and then the other thing too is drainage plans, site and drainage plans.
Okay.
So we get some counties require to have the site and drainage plans. Not every county requires it, but some are starting to adapt it and wanting to see it more often than others.
Okay.
Right? And so what that requires is us to do a full site and drainage plan, which is going to give you your elevation points, all of your drainage marks, everything. So in order for us to provide our clients with those plans, we would need importable surveys.
Okay.
And what the importable survey is going to do, it's going to give our drafters the opportunity to take real measurements based off of the site plan of the house and the yard, and properly place those proper dimensions and points and elevation points onto our plans for them.
And then this importable, where is that coming from? Is that something that's being provided by?
Provided by the client.
Okay.
Typically, they're going to get it from the homeowner. Some cases, the homeowner may not have it. They might have an old survey that has it, might be scans. We encourage to get a digital, but if they have a scan, we can still work off of it, but we would have to do a little bit more work by redrafting it. And it just takes a little bit longer, a little bit more effort on that.
As we've been developing tools internally to help the process, for not only internally for communication, things like that, we're coming out with a new piece of software that's going to be available for the clients as well in a portal. One of the things is making it easier for order submittals. And I've noticed how much goes into a order submittal. There's so many different pieces.
Right.
But a perfect order submittal, what does that look like in your eyes?
So a perfect order submittal is supplying us with the key information on the property.
Okay.
Right? So it's going to give us the contractor information, the client's information, where the physical address is at, and then all the key elements that go in with designing the pool. The pool depths, the pool size, the equipment specifications. If you're in a flood zone, give us the finished floor elevation,
Okay.
finished deck elevation. We want to know, are you doing, is there going to be a deck, or do you need a footer? Is there a turn down footer, retaining wall? So there's a bunch of different elements that we need. If you know what you're doing on that pool, those are key items that we need to know what's going into it. So once we capture all the information in our orders process and we can quote it and get everything assessed, once we send it through to our orders team, my engineers know exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then once we get it out to our customers, there's no question, and we're not going through a whole revision process.
Okay. I think it would be beneficial for everyone, including our clients, if we had an example. And I believe we have an example. We'll put it in the captions down below of a PDF example of what a perfect order submittal comes through. So Larry, it is hurricane season, right? We're a month and a half into it. We've got a tropical storm Aaron off of the coast. At the time of recording this video, we don't know where it's going, right? But I've seen this in person during Hurricane Ian, and I've warned people not to drain your pool, at least all the way, right? And the reason why is I've seen pools come out of the ground.
Right.
From the professional, I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure people here would too. Should you drain your pool during a hurricane?
No, so we encourage to, when I was building pools, I've been in the pool industry for 16 years, and during the course of the time of building, living in Florida for the entire time, we've gone through hurricane seasons every year. And I would always get those questions asked all the time. So the answer to that is no. Leave the water in the pool. So a lot of people will just throw their, pool chairs and, loose item like chairs and some tables that can get wet into the pool so it doesn't blow away. So I've seen that happen. But to
That's
answer
not a
that,
bad idea, though, right?
it's not a bad idea.
Okay.
So, and then people ask, well, do I cut my screens? Well, no. The screens and the cages are designed and for those hurricane, wind calculations. So
We do have a really good article. It was wrote 2 years ago, but should you cut your screens out of your screen cage? The answer is no, but if you are going to, don't just slash it. Take the entire screen
Panel
out
out.
itself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the flapping from it can cause
vibrations and
pressure
issues,
onto this. Yeah, the cage isn't meant to handle with that. So that's good to know. So I've noticed. We've all seen it on the news. Just a casual 3 p.m. rainstorm has been flooding a lot of streets, and I think it's a big concern when somebody's building a pool when it comes to flooding. So what tips do you have when it comes to flood zones and flooding? When it comes to pool construction.
Yeah, so you got a few risk categories when it comes to flood. You got your AE flood zone, you got your coastal AE, and you got your coastal BE. So coastal A, we're going to design the pool based off of our calculations, what we feel is per code for the structural integrity of the pool based off of the flood that it's in. It's not going to be major changes, but we may require to do a little bit thicker shell, maybe an 8-inch thick shell or a 6-inch with just extra rebar. It's the weight that we're looking for, right? And so once you start getting into the more high risk situations, the more critical we need to be on our design aspects. And it's just safe practices. It's to code, and we just want to make sure that we're providing a product that's going to withstand Mother Nature. And sometimes you can't. It's just the way it is. But we want to make sure that we're going to make sure our clients are protected based off of those scenarios.
To a degree, you would. It's perfectly engineered. Is there a degree where it's over-engineered?
Well, you can get some cases where you over-engineer something, right? And there's always a question of, well, is there a different approach in how we can look at this in a different angle? Of course you can, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we're giving the best product without over-engineering it, because we understand cost and budget when it comes to a consumer.
That's good to know.
So we always keep that in the back of our mind when it comes to our design aspects and how we can be cost effective, not just with our design, but with our consumer. So that's very important for us.
Well, perfect, Larry. I think we've answered a lot of questions. We've given a lot of insight, so I really appreciate having you on.
Absolutely, man.
For Campfire Talks, brother.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
If you guys enjoyed this video, we do have 2 other videos before this one. The last one we talked about septic and civil with Joanna and George, and the video before that was with our head of structural engineering, Cash. That was the first of these Campfire Talks. We do have more coming out, so be sure to stay tuned and subscribe to our channel for more Campfire Talks as well as other educational videos in the engineering sector.